is a Fox Sports presentation.
In the often brutal world of professional football, it's easy to forget that the game is played by a fascinating array of characters, each with their own particular and sometimes peculiar life story to tell. Men who were once little boys with a dream. Men like Bill Bates of the Dallas Cowboys.
I'll never forget the first time I picked up one of these. My mom and dad signed me to play football when I was 8 years old. It was the Mullins Methodist Church League in Germantown, Tennessee. That's just outside Memphis. Even at that age, I just loved to hit people. One time when I was 12, my coach dared me to tackle him. So I did. I hit him so hard he swallowed his chewing tobacco. Later, I saw him puking in the parking lot. I don't know whatever happened to him. My senior year at Tennessee, we finally beat Alabama. You know, Bear Bryant and all. To celebrate that win, I ate a goldfish. After college, nobody drafted me. Cowboys called me up and said if there were 13 rounds in the draft, I would have been the 13th pick. Went to California, got off the bus, 200 13th round draft picks for the Dallas Cowboys.
Right over the top of them, head on. Take off right through that gap. Let's go.
Right away, I impressed Coach Landry when I hit Tony Dorsett at full speed during a half-speed drill. It knocked poor Tony out. But I don't think Coach Landry ever forgot it.
You better be ready, I tell you, when you go through there, because he's going to come.
Hitting people has kept me in football all my life. You know, 2 Super Bowl rings and all. But there's one team that I want to be on every year. That's the All-Madden team. You see, there's lots of great players in the NFL. But to make the All-Madden team, you've got to be special. You have to start training young. I mean real young. You have to eat the right food and develop a good body. All-Madden guys come in all shapes and sizes. Some guys try too hard to make the team. One thing is, you got to know how to spell. We don't care much about grammar, and we couldn't care less about punctuation. There's one thing you have to do on the All-Madden team, that's spell. You also have to be able to write, and a basic knowledge of electronics is helpful. One more thing, you better know geometry.
When you got him, that makes this triangle here a truth.
All-Madden guys work hard, train hard, and have unique talent. When we're all done working, we don't even bother to shower. We just walk around and wait for it to rain or find a nice puddle to dunk in. One of my coaches wouldn't have liked that. He loved to wash his hair. I don't know whatever happened to him.
Look, there's a fish going by. We're looking at Jimmy Johnson. A fish just flew right by his head.
You know how I know so much about the All-Madden team? Can I let you in on a little secret? I've been studying my whole life. Let me show you these. Back when John coached the Raiders, I followed him wherever he went and learned all about him and football and what it takes to make it in the NFL. Wherever Coach Madden went, I was only a few steps behind. He never caught on. I was there for the wins. I was also there for the few losses. He didn't take those too well. I eavesdropped on the great minds of football and hung out near the legendary players like Blanda, Stabler, and Blitnikoff. Shrimp? No thanks. We eat big foods on the All-Madden team, like big ham, 6-leg turkeys, and the stub sandwich. Hey, you know I invented the stub sandwich?
Chocolate?
No thanks. I got my own.
Someone got a candy bar knocked right out of him.
That was Nate, I'm sure.
Someone had a candy bar on their person.
Hey, you're a big fella. I bet you can make the All-Madden team. Remember, there's one rule. Coach Madden has to see you play. Hey, I see my bus coming. I gotta go. And one more thing. Mom always said, all Madden is all Madden does.
Welcome to the Little Caesars 11th annual All-Madden team. And John, I guess nobody symbolizes what this All-Madden team is all about any more than Bill Bates.
Yeah, Bill Bates is that kind of guy. I mean, he's an overachiever, hard-working, hard-hitting, tough guy. And I know when I used to coach, I used to have a saying. I wasn't exactly sure what it meant, but just before we'd go out in the field, I'd say, hey, don't worry about the horse being blind, just load the wagon. Bill Bates understands that.
I've heard that saying. You know, I'm amazed at how this thing has grown over the years.
Well, you know, remember, we started, we had nothing. I mean, we had a chair here or something out in the back, and this year I said, let's really do something. We'll build something. So I got all my construction guys together, and I said, okay, go, we'll find something here, and we're going to bring in the heavy equipment. We'll knock some buildings down, and we'll put some up, and we built stuff and got everything together. And this is what we came up with. We have, like this, it's a studio now. We have the All-Madden studio, and then within the studio, we have a stage, and who would ever thought it would come to this?
What about this year's team? What's it going to be like?
I'll tell you, it's a great team. I mean, I would, you know, we've talked about this over the years. That, you know, I coached for years, and I enjoyed coaching, but I never wanted to go back. I never would go back. When I look at this group, if I could take this group, I would love to coach these guys, and I would take them and play anyone, anywhere, anytime.
If you do decide to coach again, bring me back with you.
Okay.
I want to play. We'll meet this year's team when we come back. Little Caesars 11th annual All-Madden team is brought to you by Little Caesars Pizza, where you always get 2 great pizzas for 1 low price. By Florsheim Comfort Tech. Get Comfort Tech and get comfortable. And by MCI, the company that brings you Proof Positive. You know, John, the foundation for all Madden teams has been the big guys. And this year, it's the defensive line, and it's a big group.
You can never have too many big guys, but, you know, we need more defensive linemen now because more teams are using the 4-man line. It used to be when they used a 3-man line, you only needed 3 of them. Now when they go to the 4-man line, you got your tackles, the inside guys, and you got your ends, the outside guys. So there's 4 guys you need all the time. Then you need outside guys like the Reggie White who can play outside and can play inside. Then you need inside guys who can play inside and outside. Then you need guys that can play linebacker and pass rush. So you just get all those guys, inside guys, outside guys, pass rushers, and just kind of throw them all in one big old pot.
That's a big pot. That's a big group. Here they are.
Charles Haley of the Dallas Cowboys lines up in the left side, lines up in the right side. Wherever he lines up, he's going to go after the quarterback. And this guy is one of those guys who's like a bull in a china closet. He gets in your backfield and disrupts everything.
And we got a couple of new faces on the inside.
Yeah, big Leon Lett and Andy Harmon, 2 big old tackles. Leslie O'Neal, a good pass rusher from the San Diego Chargers. That's a good group.
And Eric Swan, the defensive tackle from Arizona.
You know, we watched this guy, Pat, a couple times, and I never questioned his playing ability. I just worried about, what's this guy eat?
Jeez, how am I gonna do? Man thinks I eat junk food. He thinks all tough guys eat junk food. But I eat health food. Guess I gotta go stock up on health food.
Hey, Eric, congratulations on making the All-Madden.
Oh,
team,
thanks, man.
Hey, that's well deserved. What
Hooray.
you eating there, buddy? Oh, fried potatoes, tacos. Oh, Big John will be proud of you eating like that, boy. That's how real football players eat.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Pat, I watched this guy, and I think we've just been bluffed. But he's
you're
still
right.
on the team.
John Randall of Minnesota.
He's talking about Charles Haley being a disruptive guy. He is from the outside, but from the inside, that's what John Randall does. I mean, he'll go up the field, he'll give you spinners, he'll line that right side, left side, and again, if you don't know what to do with him before the game, after the game, he'll even run a camera for you.
Bryant Young, what an addition he's been.
Well, it needs some young guys, looking for some rookie players. Now, I don't like them to line up square all the time, so if you can get a young guy who lines up kind of sideways and once in a while slithers, heck, you just throw him on the team.
And Jumpy Geathers of Atlanta. His strength around the league, John, is legendary.
And so is this move right here, Pat. It's called the forklift. He just picks up the guard, stands them straight up, and walks them right back into the quarterback. Every offensive lineman worries about the forklift. Oh, that's the forklift! No one wants to be forklifted, and that's why we want Jumpy on our team.
And we also want the Minister of Defense, Reggie White.
I think as long as we have an All-Madden team and as long as Reggie White is playing, he's going to be on this team. He just throws guys around. You know, he has this one move. We used to call it the club, and then Howie Long called it the hump. And we talked to Reggie White, that move right there, he calls it the Howie. He said he learned it from Howie Long.
He can name it whatever he wants to.
Good group, huh? We have young guys lined up in there cockeyed. We have the old forklift move, and we even caught a lineman eating health food.
So we've had our humps, we've had our Howies. Next, we'll meet the linebackers. Now, when you talk about the linebackers on the All-Madden team, a good place to start, Chris Spielman.
Yeah, especially in this year, the 75th anniversary and all that throwback stuff. Chris Spielman is a throwback linebacker. And watch this spike here, Pat. This is what you call a throwback spike. Only Chris Spielman.
And Kevin Green of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he led the league in sacks this year. One of those guys that is a linebacker but rushes the passer most of the time. And a big, strong guy can play against running backs. It's no contest. You better get a big offensive lineman on him.
And he's got a pretty good man on the other side, too, Greg Lloyd.
Yeah, that's what made that Pittsburgh defense so tough. You have Kevin Green coming from one side. You have Greg Lloyd coming from the other side. And they usually met right there at the quarterback. That wasn't bad advice for their opponent.
Avoid Lloyd's a good idea. And Derek Thomas of Kansas City.
Yeah, remember we saw him early in the season against the San Francisco 49ers? He was all over the place, rushing the passer, making tackles downfield everywhere.
And the mud doesn't bother him either.
And usually playing well in the mud will get you a spot on this team.
You never know when one of those linebackers might show up here at your studio, John, but I see you're ready for him. The old 7-man sled. Where the heck did you get this thing?
You know, it was funny. I was in Santa Rosa this summer, and it used to be where we used to train with the Oakland Raiders, and they left. They don't train there anymore, and lo and behold, they left this sled. This was the old 7-man sled that I used to coach on 20 years ago.
They don't make those anymore.
No, I tell you, and you can't beat it. And you start thinking about 7-man sled and hitting and throwbacks and tradition. I was looking for a place for the Hall of Fame this year, and I was riding across the... Introducing it. I thought, you know, it has to be in Illinois. When you think of Illinois and you think of George Hallis, Red Grange, Dick Butkus, you know, down in the mud, you know, hands all dirty and taped and everything and hitting. I thought, yeah, that's it. It has to be here. This is where our Hall of Fame has to be. Last year I was looking for a Hall of Fame, and I was out in the big sky country looking over the frozen tundra and found a place in Wyoming. This year I decided, let's change it. Let's go to Illinois. Let's find an old truck stop. Look here. I got the gift shop all ready. You want to play some games? You got that. I got some people. I got a salad bar. I got some more people over here. The whole thing's ready to go. Look at this. You can't beat a $5 shower. You kidding me? You got a $5 shower, that's where you have to haul your fame. Well, we're looking for a Hall of Fame. We got a linebacker to put in this year. Well, the thing of linebacker, you got to go to Illinois. That's where Dick Butkus is from. And the linebacker we're putting in the Hall of Fame is the best linebacker that I've seen since I've been in broadcasting. In fact, he's the most dominant defensive player that I've seen since I've been in broadcasting, and that's Lawrence Taylor. You know, Lawrence Taylor, if you would run at him, boom, he'd stop. If you'd run away from him, he'd run across the field and make the tackle. Quarterback was back to pass, boom, he was the first guy there. Great pass pressure. Lawrence Taylor was a football player. Lawrence Taylor had it all. And if you wanted to say, what is a linebacker? What is a football player? I'll tell you what he is. He was this guy right here, number 56, Lawrence Taylor. Now he's in the hall.
Well, throwback linebacker, throwback truck stop. I wish I'd known about that place when I was playing with the old Chicago Cardinals. We had some guys who could have used that $5 shower.
You know, 1994 was really kind of the year of the throwbacks, and I think we have it right here. We have a throwback field. We have the old throwback 7-man sled, the old throwback dog. You can't beat that.
No, you can't. And we're going to throw it back and meet the rest of the defense after this word from your local station. Now let's meet the All-Madden defensive backs, and what better place to start than with Rod Woodson.
You know, he's one of the few active players in the NFL to make the all-time NFL team. And you can see why. He can do everything. He can cover like a corner, hit like a safety, blitz like a linebacker, and when he gets his hands on the ball, he can run it like a running back.
And then there is another Woodson as well. No relation.
Yeah, Darren Woodson of the Dallas Cowboys. He's a safety. He was a linebacker in college. He has the speed of a safety or corner and still hits like a linebacker.
And Aeneas Williams of the Cardinals.
We were really impressed with this guy when we saw him. In fact, I think everyone was impressed with him because he led the National Football League in interceptions. And if you're going to have a corner, he better be able to cover, and Aeneas Williams can do that.
Donnell Wolford of the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, what a start, huh, Pat? We have a Woodson, a Williams, and a Wolford. Now, how are you going to throw against 4W? And here's a guy who didn't make the Pro Bowl. The Bears made the playoff, and this guy was in on just about every kind of play he could be. Look at this hustle catching Barry Sanders from behind.
And of course, you got to have a Z. Michael Zordich of Philadelphia.
Yeah, we start off with his secondary staying at the bottom of the alphabet. But Zordich was the type of guy who loved to play up around the line of scrimmage. And if you went in the middle, you were going to meet that Z. Boom!
And you'd remember it. Got to have a Hanks.
No, not that Hanks. I wanted Burton Hanks. Might be first seeing too many movies, Matt.
And remember him in the regular season game against the Cowboys?
Yeah, he had some big plays down there in the goal line. In fact, he had 2 interceptions. He was all over the place. Run and pass, and knows how to celebrate. And you can tell whenever you played a good game. Because when the game's over and the opponent bows to you, that's about as good as it gets.
And Deion Sanders of the 49ers.
Yeah, he didn't make the All-Madden team because of this. He didn't make All-Pro because of this. He didn't make all the honors because of this. He made it because of this. Deion Sanders is one of the best cover guys that ever played. And when he gets his hands on the ball, he run with it. He's the fastest player in the whole league.
One thing we know for sure, he dances better than he fights.
He does. But I'll tell you, that gives us a lot of versatility in this group. I mean, we got our dancers, and we got our fighters, we got our hitters. We got our cover guys that'll hit. We got our hitters that'll cover. And we got our cover guys that'll intercept and can return. I'll tell you, in today's football, you need all those combinations.
And, John, that brings us to a group that's very special and very near and dear to my heart, the special teams. They're up next.
Oh, what a tough guy he is, Pat. I never questioned that. This guy can play special teams, tackle all over the field. The only question I have is his choice of clothes.
Hey, John, it's an honor and a pleasure to be named to the All-Madden team. What you need today is a little style, a little grace, a little Mo Douglas in the place.
John, I guess based on that, you don't have a dress code on your All-Madden team.
Nah, just kind of be yourself. You know, if you play like that on the field, when you get off the field, you can do or wear whatever you want.
Well, you know, I noticed one thing. You still don't have a kicker on your All-Madden team.
I looked all year. I mean, I looked at quick kickers. I looked at drop kickers. I looked at trippers. And I come up and I said, I don't want any of these guys. I mean, I kind of liked them. I mean, they were good guys. Also, I have to go back, Pat, on any All-Madden team. There's only going to be one kicker, and that's you.
God, I can't tell you how honored I am. It's nice to be picked every year like this, and without doing much. Well, you've answered one question for me, but I know a lot more people have a lot more questions about your team as you ride around the country on the bus, and here they are.
Hey, John, what's the official weather conditions of the All-Madden team?
One thing I like about you, you have your head on straight. But if we're talking about...
You, though, you have, every time we've talked in the past, we've talked about your health.
We need wind chill, and we need quagmire. And then you got All-Madden weather.
When you come to a truck stop, what kind of food do you eat?
Well, any truck stop in America, they have one thing. You can go in blindfold. It doesn't make any difference who you are, where you are, whether it's for breakfast, lunch, dinner, late night snack, early morning, anytime, chicken fried steak.
This is Engine Company 323 in Brooklyn, and we'd like to know what All-Madden player was running through a burning building to save his fellow teammates.
I'll tell you who would do that as a nose tackle, because that's the way they play. I mean, they're down there, boom, they just go after everything. I mean, they're big old guys. They got a center here, they got a guard here, another guard on the other side, guys coming all over and blocking another. You know, they just burst into things and help whoever they can. I mean, teammates, your team, their team, whatever. The only thing I'd worry about those big old nose tackles if they could slide down that pole.
When are you going to sit in the dog pound with us instead of up there in the press box?
When the season's over. I'm going to sit, I always try and go to the dog pound when it's not too crowded. So I go in April.
Well, April, the springtime, that seems like a good time to go.
I think so. I think if you're going to go to the pound, you go when there's no crowd there.
Well, whenever you go, I don't care when it is, take me with you. I want to go with you.
Okay, we'll be there.
We'll have a look at the offense when the All-Madden team, and there's a lot more to come.
Yeah, we're going to start off with my favorite position. You know, you try not to have favorites, but doggone it, I have to admit that those guys that are in the trenches, that do the pass protection, block for those running backs, they're my favorite.
Now let's meet the All-Madden offensive line, beginning with Eric Williams.
And even though he was injured and missed half the season, we can't leave Eric Williams off this team. I think Eric Williams of the Dallas Cowboys is the best offensive lineman in all of football.
And Harris Barton of San Francisco.
I remember early in the season, he tore his left tricep muscle, but at the end of the season, he really came around. I mean, he was blocking, run blocking, pass protection. He was an important guy in getting those 49ers to the Super Bowl.
And Willie Rope of New Orleans.
Always looking for young, big old guys. And Willie Rope is one of those guys that can run and pass protect.
Nate Newton and Mark Stepnoski, both of the Cowboys.
I like this combination here. You know, down in the goal line is where you really need a big offensive lineman. Here's Stepnoski here. Here's Nate Newton here. Boom, they're going to fire out, and watch the hole that they make down there for Emmitt Smith. When you can get down in the goal line and the running back goes into the end zone and no one touches him, that is goal line blocking.
And Nate's day is never done.
No, those big old offensive linemen, they work all the time. I mean, they got their dogs to take care of after they finish their blocking. Get in there. Okay.
Steve Wallace.
Yeah, what a tackle he's becoming. You know, good run blocker, good pass protector. Sometimes he had a little trouble keeping his head on straight. Wore that extra thing, and he'd get hit, and boom, it would just pop off. Then it's not easy to get back on. I mean, it has to go from Bronco to Ricky to Derek to boom, back on there. He didn't even know it was off him. But when you can play like that, not even know if your head's on straight or not, you are an All-Madden offensive tackle.
Well, you always hear you got to keep your head on straight, and with Steve Wallace, that can really be a problem.
Well, you know, but that's what I like about Steve Wallace and all offensive linemen. I mean, there's stuff flying, boom, 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 but they always keep focused. They keep right on their guy.
John, you got a nice big group. How you going to feed them?
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, I don't know exactly how, I don't know exactly what, but I know it has to be a lot, and it has to be sinkers. I mean, stuff you put in here and goes, boom, right down there. I've been spending a lot of time kind of looking for the one thing. Well, we've looked high and low. We've seen a guy out there in the grill all by himself. We've seen a pot. We look at this stuff, and you have goblets and stuff like this and chandeliers. There's no way that that's going to be the All-Madden food. Now, this here looked good. You had a big old pot of jambalaya, but look here, you have a little bowl to put it in. That's not going to be the thing. Now we saw this guy here. This isn't bad. You take the lobsters out of a pot, put them on a grill. You got your big old meat, but it's still tough because you got to kind of stay with one kind of food, and I don't know what the answer is. And we know you grill it, and we know where you put the grill, but I don't know what else.
The motto of the All-Madden team is you've got to find one good food and stick with it.
Well, when the heavyweight champion tells you just have one food, all we're going to have is one food. And we looked all over for it. I mean, we looked in the parking lots, and We looked all over. We didn't find it there, but we did find it down in Texas.
Well, now let's go to our All-Madden food expert, Nate Newton, down in Coppell, Texas.
Thanks, Pat and John. I'm down here at Capel Deli, and we're here to talk about this world-famous stub. And with me right now is the owner, Jay, and he's going to explain to us how do you make a stub. Jay, how do we start this stub off?
Nate, we'll start with some sausage that I'm grilling right now. Some of this bacon that's already crisp and ready to go. And we top that with cheese. And on top of that, it comes 2 eggs. You can either have it scrambled or fried. And I top it off on this Texas toast, which we all love in Texas.
Well, you know, the funny thing about this sandwich is, you know, you would think me, a big guy like me, would eat all of this food and do, you know, and be full. But Troy Aikman is the one that really loves these big old 1,000,000-calorie sandwiches. And it's something special to see Troy Aikman just slopping over big stubs like you do.
Nate, Troy gives me a call regularly for his stubs. And when he picks up, he usually picks up 15 of them.
Oh, man. So, I mean, is that for the team or is that just for himself?
That's for quarterbacks and some of the coaches' assistant and I don't know who else.
Oh, man, but every time it's just him, Zampese, Jay, and Pete. Ain't but 4 guys.
And Pete can only eat half, so
4 guys on 15 stubs, that is something special. This is it. A Capel Deli stub.
Well, that's perfect. That's exactly what we were looking for. One food, and it's a sinker. We had a whole bunch of them here, Pat, and our crew ate them all. Now we got none stubs.
Well, you know, John, I'm sure that those big football players can handle those stubs, but I'm not sure about the crew. Let's get a nutritional analysis from our expert at the Pritikin Center.
We've looked at the nutritional composition of a lot of different foods and recipes and things that people get in restaurants and people buy in the supermarket. And I got to tell you, this sandwich here has more saturated fat and cholesterol than just about anything we've ever analyzed here. You know, maybe you can keep the bread. I think I'll leave the tasting up to you, Pat and John.
You know, there are some foods you don't analyze, you just eat.
Well, John, we're going to take a break, order up some more stubs, meet the backs and receivers when we come back after these messages and a word from your local station.
Communication.
Better communication. This year's All-Madden wide receivers are led by who else but Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice is the best wide receiver that I've ever seen. You know, he does everything. He runs, he catches, he blocks, and they have this thing called RAC, R-A-C, run after the catch. Nobody does that better than Jerry Rice. Like, nobody does everything better than Jerry Rice. And he's the first in a lot of things, including the first guy in a fight when someone tries to mess with his quarterback.
Alvin Harper of the Dallas Cowboys.
He's a big play wide receiver. Remember, we've seen so many games this year in the Cowboys and Alvin Harper where they just throw the ball up in the air and it becomes a jump ball, and Alvin Harper would always end up with it.
And his teammate, Michael Irvin.
You know, you think of tough guys in football, you think of defensive players and linemen and linebackers, but Michael Irvin is one of the toughest guys that I have ever seen. And if you ever question that, just remember back to last week's championship game against the 49ers. Tough guy.
And so is Sterling Sharp of the Packers. Unfortunately, his season ended early because of an injury, but you can't leave him off the All-Madden team.
No, he'll never be left off any All-Madden team. You play him up, and he'll run right by you. You play him tight, and he'll run right over you. One of the strongest receivers that ever played.
And his brother, Shannon Sharp of Denver.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, you know, if you have one as a wide receiver, one as a tight end, take them both. You can't beat that.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, man? Yeah, I just got the word. We both made the All-Madden team. Did we?
Well, I don't know about you. I think you've made it a couple of times, but I'm really excited about this award.
Hey, man, you know, you must be as good as me. I mean, you've made every team. You've been to Pro Bowls. I mean, you led your team in respect. It's about time, you know. I'm tired of carrying you around.
I don't know about all that, but I'm really honored that I made it. I mean, I think I'm tougher than you, so if you've made it, therefore I think I should be on the team also.
I don't know who's the toughest, but they're both good.
And I think the answer to that is we'll just take them both and not care who's the toughest.
Here's a surprise. Terrence Mathis of Atlanta.
He was a surprise to a lot of opponents this year. He came over from the Jets where he wasn't really used a lot, and then he went to that run and shoot of the Atlanta Falcons, became a slot receiver, and he caught footballs all over the place.
And we can't leave off Gary Clark.
Nope, as long as there's an All-Madden team and Gary Clark's in the league, he's going to be on this team. For 10 years, he has caught over 50 passes. He's a guy who's a wide receiver who plays the game with fun. He plays it like a linebacker.
You know, John, if we ever get an expansion team, Gary Clark wouldn't be a bad place to start.
No, we're not an official NFL team yet, but if we were, he'd be the first guy I would take. He's on that list. I would take Gary Clark.
Well, you've met the receivers. Now here are the running backs. The Cowboys' Emmitt Smith.
The best all-around running back in football. You hand him the ball, and he's going to run with it with power. You want to throw it to him, he's a very good receiver. And if you need a blocker, one of the best there is. You know, we used to throw guys off the team for this, Pat. But it's the 90s.
And Barry Sanders of Detroit.
Yeah, we're not going to throw Barry Sanders off the team, even though he loses his sock on that play. Well, any time you talk to an NFL defensive player, they always say the toughest guy to tackle, the toughest guy to get your hands on is Barry Sanders.
And the Ironhead, Craig Hayward of Atlanta.
Yeah, you know, we got those big old offensive linemen up in front, and they're kind of looking for a big old fullback to go with those linemen, and Ironhead Hayward's the guy. Then if you need another guy to chunk the ball, Ironhead chunks the ball pretty good.
William Floyd, the rookie from San Francisco.
Yeah, we're always looking for young ones, and William Floyd is one of those guys who brings enthusiasm. His agent gave him the nickname Bar None when he came into the league, said he's the best fullback in the draft, bar none. And then we watched him play this year, and I kind of agree with that.
Rookies don't often find out to join John Madden in our All-Madden studio.
You know, one of the things that really impressed me about William Floyd, old bar none, is that you came into the 49ers this year, and you brought a lot of emotion. In fact, you were darn near an emotional leader.
Well, I'll tell you, John, it was a road that I fell into. The team needed something, and I thought that I was the spark plug for that team this year. And I had a lot of guys behind me and that wanted to release some of that pressure on them, release some of that fun, let some of it out. Because, you know, you work so hard to get to a certain point and then you don't have any fun with it. But I think I really was the remedy for that team, and I got a lot of credit for it. But I must say a lot of other guys helped me, like Deion Sanders and the rest of those guys helped me loosen up that team.
What do you do when you get down in the goal line, the guy hands you the ball, you go in there? You explode in there? You get fired up?
I get really fired up because I want to make sure that my team wins. And if they're putting enough confidence in me to get the ball into the end zone, I think I should get there.
And then what do you do after?
I act wild. I act wild. I have a lot of fun with it.
How do you act wild?
The wild type attitude to the field.
Okay, so now you guys beat the Cowboys. Did the Cowboys have any respect for you?
I don't think they had any respect for us before the game, but I think they respect us now as a team. I don't think they really believed that they could lose to us. I think they thought they would come in there and come in our backyard and beat us.
You know, if you have, would you rather run or block?
I'd rather block. I love the block. I love the feeling of being able to hit people and dominate my man. I don't want my man to ever make the play.
Okay, now that's the reason you're all mad. When you get a running back who would rather block than run, you can be on my team anytime.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
The All-Madden quarterbacks, led by the 49ers' Steve Young.
If Steve Young can lead this All-Madden team this year like he led the 49ers to the Super Bowl, he does it all. You know, he can pass. He's very proficient. You want a runner, he runs like a halfback. And the thing I like about Steve Young, even with all this football and all this emotion that he shows, he still has time to call his mother.
Oh, my gosh, Steve, you got to comb your hair. You're on national TV. What would John Madden think?
John Madden would think something was wrong if he combed his hair.
Yeah, I like that. The only time he combs his hair is after he takes a shower. He combs it with a towel.
Troy Aikman of the Cowboys.
A great quarterback and a tough guy. You think of the things that he went through this year. He had the thumb injury, the knee injury, the concussion, and boy, was he tough last week against the 49ers. He hung in there and battled him the whole game. He can be on my team anytime.
Another tough guy, Brett Favre of Green Bay.
Well, I think an all-Madden team, you need a Brett Favre. You need someone from Green Bay, from Wisconsin. You need some cheeseheads to follow us around. And Brett Favre kind of plays quarterback like a nose tackle.
And Joe Montana of Kansas City.
You want a quarterback that just goes back, finds a receiver, gets the ball to him just about every time. A guy that will compete, will fight, will win. Joe Montana's the guy.
Possibly the all-time All-Madden quarterback. In fact, he's with John right now.
Joe, it's a pleasure to have you on the All-Madden team. A pleasure to have you here. And over the years, it's been our pleasure to watch you play and everything that you've done. And over those years, is there one game that you remember more than any of the others?
Well, if I had to pick one, it would probably be the second Super Bowl against Cincinnati, mainly because the way the game ended for a quarterback, from all the way from 8 years old all the way up till even now, I think that's the ultimate way to end your season. In the Super Bowl, throwing a touchdown pass to win the game. As a player, I don't think there's anything that can surpass it.
You look cool when you're out there, but you can get excited too. In fact, in that game, didn't you hyperventilate or something?
Yeah, I got so, it was so loud at the point, and the excitement and the adrenaline was going and flowing so much that I had to yell so loud, and it took all the oxygen away, and I almost blacked out.
You know, with the Super Bowl coming up, the 49ers and the Chargers, how do you see that game?
Well, the one thing that everybody knows is the 49ers are very tough, and I think San Diego's in for a long day, unfortunately for them, especially being from our conference now. You know, you have a little bit of pulling for them since they beat us twice, but I think the 49ers just have too much both offensively and defensively for San Diego to try to stay in the game is probably the best thing that they can do.
So, Joe, you going to play for 10 more years?
I wish I could play for 10 more. I wish I had 10 in me. I mean, the game's fun, and at this point, you know, I haven't even made up my mind what I'm going to do tomorrow, let alone next year.
I'll tell you, it's always been our pleasure to watch you and to have you on this team, and I want to thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. It's a definite honor. I'll tell you, when the guys look around at all the teams that are available to make, the number one they look for is the All-Madden.
Thanks a lot.
From one great quarterback to another, the MCI Proof Positive Player of the Year.
Watch this, Dan Marino, Pat. It's a street movie telling him he's just going to throw the ball down to stop the clock at the end of the game. He lulls the Jets a little. They kind of fall asleep there for a second. Boom, he gets up there, throws a touchdown pass, wins the game. And look what he thinks about it. That has to be the play of the year.
When we come back, we'll talk with Steve Young and look ahead to next week's Super Bowl as the All-Madden team continues. Our Little Caesars most valuable player, Steve Young, the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. And what a year he had. It was a new Steve Young. He assumed not only the quarterback's role, but the leadership role. And you can tell after the championship game victory how much it meant to him. He's with John Madden right now.
Well, Steve, welcome. This is literally just dragging you right off the practice field.
Yeah, well, you know, Coach, you said if I made the All-Madden team, I had to be ready for a game anywhere, anytime. So I showed up ready to play.
I know, I can see it. This is the first time we've ever had a guy come with his football shoes.
Yeah, I got my cleats, and just in case the game broke out.
The emotion you showed this year, I think, was just great. I mean, you just seemed like a different person this year.
Yeah, I think that I used to think that you'd lead by example, by not, you know, screaming at everyone, just by playing hard. And I've learned this year that you can play hard and learn and lead by that. Also, you can lead by your mouth too. And I thought it was a lot more fun, too. I mean, not only just yelling at my coach or, you know, screaming at the players or anything, but just, like you said, be more emotionally involved with the guys, something that they can attach to. I agree with you.
How did that come about? I mean, where did it come? Where did it sound? Say, okay, now I'm going to, instead of keeping it in, I'm going to boom, just let this stuff.
I think it just probably after a while I just couldn't stay in anymore because I think it's part of my personality, and I just never. I kept kind of weighing what kind of a leader I would be. You know, I was like I wasn't sure, and so I think over time it just kind of spitting out the sides, you know, and then it kind of took over.
Now, as you go to the Super Bowl, how do you feel about this? I mean, what's your feeling going into the Super Bowl?
Obviously playing the Cowboys last week was a really big game for us. It had been the hump that we couldn't get over the last couple of years. And, but now that we've done it, the Super Bowl is not anticlimactic at all.
I remember when we won the Super Bowl in 1976, we had that thing, you know, couldn't win the big one. I remember after that game, Roger Staubach came up to me at a dinner and he says, you know, he said the greatest thing about winning a Super Bowl is he said never again in your life can you say you can't win the big one.
And so it's exciting to have that opportunity. I know yours was, twice with Pittsburgh, and then the third time you finally got them.
Yeah, it was the same thing.
And the same thing here with Dallas. So, you know, I hope it's the key to success because, you know, it gets old hearing that.
Well, you deserve it. I mean, everything that you've gone through and the way you've played, and I'll tell you, coming here off the practice field, we really appreciate this.
It's
coming in your gear, coming in your gear, ready to play. You're the All-Madden quarterback, but you still got your
my mud.
shoes on, you got the mud coming off, the dirt, the cleats. You come right here.
If it would have rained, I really would have had the whole thing because I had the mud and the water and the whole thing.
No, well, you got the whole thing anyway. You got the sweat, the hair, you got your sweatband on, you got
my
sweet
towel ready to go. I figured, hey, when you think of All-Madden, I think of it. This is why I said, well, if I'm All-Madden, I got to show up like this.
You are All-Madden. We're proud to have you.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay. From our MVP, Steve Young, to our All-Madden coaches.
Yeah, with this group, we only need two coaches. Dave Wanstead of the Chicago Bears, what a job he did. Took the Bears to the playoffs. They didn't even have one Pro Bowl player on the team. And our other coach would be George Seifert of the San Francisco 49ers, a guy that I think is probably the most unappreciated and underrated coach in the NFL.
All right, John, that's this year's team. What are the players going to get?
Well, we're going to clothe them. We're going to clothe their torsos. Remember Jerry Ball, and he was an All-Madden player? Well, he has a company now that makes leather jackets. So he's making these leather jackets that say All-Madden team on them. Big old heavy leather jackets. That'll keep the guys warm.
Big old ball.
That's right. And then we got a lighter jacket, you know, like spring and stuff that'll remind them that they're still on the All-Madden team. And then we got the old All-Madden team sweatshirt. You know, just your basic gray sweatshirt with the helmet. So that's what we're doing this year. We got the heavy leather jacket we give them, the light spring jacket, and the sweatshirt that they can have on their torso at all times.
Well, that's the Little Caesars 11th annual All-Madden team. John, I can't wait to get back to our studios next year, and we'll see you next year.
Travel provided by Continental, with flights to more cities in Mexico than any other U.S. airline.
Hotel accommodations provided by the Pleasanton Hilton at the Club. Little Caesars 11th annual All-Madden team has been brought to you by Little Caesars Pizza, where you always get two great pizzas for one low price. By MCI, the company that brings you proof positive. And by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately?
Ronnie Harmon in there as well, and then Courtney Hall finishes it up on top.
And Dion points out to Ronnie, look at the scoreboard.
Not
Ronnie.
being a very good sportsman is Deion Sanders.
Here's William Floyd taking it to the 20. William Floyd trying to become the first guy to play on a national championship team and then start for a Super Bowl winner in back-to-back years since Tony Dorsett, who played at Pitt and then went to the Super Bowl as a starter in his rookie season with the Cowboys.
He just fits so well into this 49er attack. He's a superb blocker, really a gifted blocker, but more than that, he can run the football, and Jerry Rice is going to come off. He is going to get an ovation.
I think what Seifert's going to do is bring out his guys one by one, if he can, and let them hear it from the crowd. Again, this is a Super Bowl crowd. It's different than it would be. Here's Floyd in San Francisco, taking it up to the 26-yard line.
Yeah, and he'll do it to Steve Young here before long.
Timeout is whistled by Jerry Markbright as Reuben Davis is injured. And they work on him on the field. The Goodyear blimp Stars and Stripes is hovering above Joe Robbie Stadium. The Super Bowl 29 winds down, and it's a coronation of the San Francisco 49ers on a night when Steve Young has a fabulous night, Jerry Rice a fabulous night, Ricky Waters and all the rest.
If you take those numbers and factor in Jerry's game back in December against the Chargers, where he had 12 receptions for 140 something.
He got a mile.
3 Super Bowls, 28 receptions, 512 yards, 7 touchdowns.
I think the Chargers
How is
have
it
seen
possible?
enough of this guy. He made 12 catches against them in the regular season meeting in San Diego, and then 10 tonight. And we will see Jerry next Sunday, as Jerry Rice will be the recipient of one of those. And it will be the 3rd such ring for maybe the best receiver of all time. Steve Young, at the age of 33, capping his brilliant season. Steve, the backup to Montana, so he has a couple of rings. In fact, Young did play in the Super Bowl following the '89 season. But it's a little different tonight.
Yes, sir.
Reuben Davis assisted from the field. It is 1st and 10 at the 26-yard line. And they give it to Floyd. Tackled by David Griggs.
You look at the 49ers, and so much has been made of George Seifert and Carmen Policy and Eddie DeBartolo and their handling of free agency. How about the way they've handled their draft? You think about this as a team built of just free agents, but to think that they have 3 rookie starters on this football team, when you think of Rice, John Taylor, who's getting to come out of the game, Steve Young, and all of these veterans, but 3 rookie starters, all highly productive, and William Floyd, Bryant Young, and Lee Woodall. It's a perfect meld of youth, of veterans, of high-priced and high-profile free agents. And this is one of the best marriages of talent I have ever seen.
And not a bad run of luck either. Lee Woodall was drafted as a safety out of Westchester State.
And now here's
Deion comes in on offense.
Here we go.
I think if they go to him, and one of the things they worked on is
what do you think?
Work out of the slot.
Yeah, what do you think Bobby Ross's opinion is of this right about now? I bet you his blood pressure just went up a few.
It's 3rd and 13. Sanders was...
Oh, no!
And they're going to go deep to Deion. And he's double covered, and it's incomplete at the 38-yard line.
He went by
back there.
He went by Darian Gordon like Gordon was going backwards.
Stanley Richard, though, roaming free safety, had that spotted all the way.
But look at Gordon. Gordon just lets him go. Right here, Deion is 4 yards downfield from Darian Gordon.
And Richard coming over had the inside coverage and Gordon the outside, but he really separated from
You know
Gordon.
what? Richard got there before the ball. He timed that pretty well, but he actually hit Deion before the football arrived.
They're not going to let Deion come down there all alone.
Wilmsmeyer's punt dropped by Gordon. Fumbled again. The ball is loose. And the Chargers are able to recover at the 28-yard line. Lewis Bush with the recovery. Well, Deion said, I signed with the 49ers because I wanted to get a chance to go to the Super Bowl and win it. And he's going to do just that.
That's, well, showed a little mercy against San Diego.
Tuesday.
The 22nd Annual American Music Awards comes your way tomorrow here on ABC. Great performances by a lot of stars, and an award to be presented by Deion Sanders, who will make his way to L.A. and then on to Hawaii for the Pro Bowl next week. You know, we were talking about the Niners and keeping their team together, and they have a lot of their key people under contract. Sanders signed a one-year deal. Carmen Policy said, we want to keep him, and he wants us to find a way to keep him next year. He loves the Bay Area. His endorsements are worth more if he plays with the 49ers. He could be back. Harmon. And one way they may keep him is to keep him interested in getting in occasionally on offense, as he did just there before the break.
Oh,
well, you have to wonder about it at this state of this game, 49-10, but maybe they went, well, take a look at it. And,
so, Al, you're insinuating that that's a dangling of the carrot by George Seifert?
The 49ers love to dangle a lot of carrots.
They got a lot of carrots.
You have to have a lot of carrots on those rings, I'll tell you that. Second down and 10 at the 28-yard line. Humphreys back in. Humphreys going deep, and that's picked off by Toy Cook, the former Saint.
Boy, did he time that beautifully.
28-yard line.
Beautifully timed by the veteran from Stanford. Free agent from New Orleans. And, well, we could use a little less of this.
Well, 7 years you toil in New Orleans, and here you get your shot at the big brass ring, and I'm not going to blame Toy Cook for being a little over exuberant, and it's a pretty nice play, and this is a guy 7 years down there, 1 year here in San Francisco. He's got a little let loose. Go ahead.
Yeah,
blow it off.
I just kind of like what Steve Young did. 6 touchdown passes, and he handled kind of gracefully. Rice, 149 yards, 10 receptions, 3 touchdowns. Pretty classic.
Toy taking his bows in front of a crowd that's about a third of what it was during the rest of the game, as Ricky Waters swings to the outside. You know, you look around, most of the seats $200, and they were going for as much as $2,000. And now I think you can buy one of the choice ones for about $10. Mr. and Mrs. Griff Young, Steve's parents.
Still like their home in Greenwich, Connecticut. Where Steve played high school for the Greenwich Cardinals under Mike Ornato.
And I think going to see Steve coming out of the game.
Here he comes.
Here he comes.
They still love him in their hometown, too.
You know what? You like this guy in anybody's town. It's hard
all the way.
It's hard to dislike him in San Diego.
2nd and 12, and Floyd up to the 31-yard line, tackled by O'Neal.
I'm sure it's you know, it's begrudging, but even if you're a Charger fan, you have to admire greatness, even if it's the opponent.
3 playoff games now. Chicago, Dallas, the Super Bowl.
Look at
no interceptions.
Put that back up. 6 touchdowns. That's one of those things you can't look at this. Now, you know, you got to look at that for a while to make sure that that's actually correct.
Ed DeBartolo is down on the field.
That's a great job.
You look at that thing and you think that's a mistake. 6 touchdowns.
3rd down and 7 at the 31. Elvis Gerback in the game. And that's incomplete, intended for Singleton.
Steve Young, who characterized his battle to the top as climbing a mountain, and there he has reached the pinnacle.
And he's got his arm around Ed DeBartolo, who's had to fight through the death of his father not long ago. The man who bought this franchise, and how sweet this must be for Eddie, given the recent death of his father. This has to be especially sweet for Ed DeBartolo. And boy, talk about a couple of bank breakers.
Eddie's got a lot of bank to break.
Yeah, he does.
Man, can they mess up a cap?
At the 32-yard line, Darian Gordon brings it back to the 35-yard line.
Interesting thing, Al, you touched on something earlier, that because of the way they structured, the way they hired the players, and the way they brought them in, that next year, with all the bonuses kicking in, they're still not going to be that far over the cap.
Now, people keep talking about this team mortgaging the future. Carmen Policy and Eddie DeBartolo dispute that. They made what they felt were very rational decisions.
What I wouldn't give to know the feeling. For those of you that have never played in a Super Bowl, and I'm one of you, boy, that must be something else. That has got to be great.
Humphreys throwing, and the catch was made up at the 41-yard line. Mark Shea.
Well, I've never played in the Super Bowl, Dan, but I played in
you've won a
National
championship.
Football League championship, and I have been on both sides of it, and I can feel for the Chargers too.
Yep. Well, I have much more experience.
Right.
I can tell you exactly what the Chargers feel like.
The great Cardinal legacy, right?
Oh yeah, I can tell you exactly how the Chargers feel, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
All right.
Jackie Rice, Jerry's wife.
Take your bow.
Yep. A little more jewelry coming into that safe deposit box at the
beautiful
Rice Manse.
Your guy is the best.
End of his 10th season in the league, and he's never been better.
And he's such a professional. That's the beauty of Jerry Rice.
Nobody on this team to this day, and he is in his 10th year, concluding it, works as hard as Jerry Rice. And that sets the standard for all of them. Beautiful shot.
There's a lot of good things in sports. It's unfortunate in one respect that this type of a celebration has to come at somebody's expense. And tonight that bill was paid by the San Diego Chargers.
3rd and 3. Alfred Papuno makes the catch. Jerry Rice, and he has said he would love to own all of the records, and if he stays around for 3 or 4 or 5 more years, he will not only own them, he, like Gretzky in hockey, will just obliterate every record as you look at some of the marks.
Well, you see, he's 114 behind. He had 112 receptions this year.
But
so
everybody's going to start making more receptions with these new rules, and records will be much more vulnerable.
Humphreys too deep, intended for Sean Jefferson.
I suggested that to him, and for you, Al and Dan heard what he said. He's not worried about that at all.
By the way, I asked him the other day, and you guys were there, and I said, who's the best cover corner you have faced in 10 years? He said, Dion.
Darn right.
So they've taken the best cover corner he's ever faced and put him on his team.
Maybe he kicked in a little bit for Dion.
Good shot of Gary Plummer there. This is his first Super Bowl championship. How sweet that must be.
2nd and 10 as Humphreys guns one to the 43-yard line, and it's caught there by Tony Martin. And Dwight Clark came down and gave George Seifert a new jacket, a jacket that already signifies that the 49ers are the Super Bowl champions.
George, there's still 3 minutes left in this ball game.
3:10.
Pretty bold statement.
Ooh. Tim Harris comes in for the sack. There's Norton, who will become the first to win 3 Super Bowls. No teams won 3 in a row, but there's a guy who has played on 3 Super Bowl champions in successive seasons. Ken Norton.
Another sack for Harris. He's had a great playoff. Had fed 4 in the previous 2 games. Now a 5th playoff sack.
And Stan Humphreys is taking a beating in there and still giving it the old All-American try. Demonstrates it there with a completion for a first down.
Mark Shea makes the catch. Clock ticking down to 2:40.
You know, Stan's hobbling up to the line of scrimmage. He is hurt, but boy, you got to admire his grittiness and stay with itness.
49-18. And
wide open. We cut away from
the plate to see George Seifert taking his bath as Tony Martin makes the St. George Seifert with his to the accompaniment of the Charger cannon.
And I think George is saying, what's that cannon going off for?
Yeah. It's brand new jacket.
I don't know that George is even aware of the fact that San Diego scored a touchdown yet. You know, he may not be too thrilled when he wipes off those glasses and find out that they scored.
And George Seifert changed a great deal with this ball club this year. Going all the way back to Detroit as we look at the touchdown. Stan Humphreys to Tony Martin. But in that Detroit game when young William Floyd came out and said, come on, this is the 90s, George. That changed things a lot for this team.
Here's Humphreys looking for 2, and again he's successful on a 2-point conversion, and there's Alfred Papunu.
And his coconut drink.
Yep.
Well, now they're down to 2 scores, 3 scores, 4 scores. Who cares how many scores? They'll try an onside kick for sure now.
49 to 26. There it is. Well, Ricky Jackson.
Oh, George. The setup by Jesse Sapolo. And Ricky
Adam
Jackson
Walker.
a bit errant on his dumping there. Yeah, a little off to the left shoulder side there.
That's the only thing they've done wrong all night.
Yeah. Wasn't a clean splash. Well, the big gamble by Ricky Jackson paid off. Came in for minimum wage. A huge bonus for going to the Super Bowl, and now he's won it. Pop the top. And have a little juice.
Yeah, that's something to look at. Roger Craig. Yeah, Roger made his way down to the sideline. Earlier this season, they retired Rogers, or they brought him back and wanted him to retire as a 49er, and he did, even though he didn't play with them in preseason. So he exults with the rest of them. Junior Seau, there's no question that it hurts. It's not a good performance by the San Diego Chargers, but let's face it, when they look back upon this year, the perspective of this season, they went much further than almost anybody anticipated, and at least won the AFC for the first time in the long history of the Chargers, as the onside kick is fielded by Ed McCaffrey and taken there.
I'm not that good a lip reader, but I think one of the things Deion Sanders said was, "I love you, Mama."
He is very close to his family. Good daddy. Well, a lot of records have fallen tonight, and we now have a mark for most points in a game. Both teams, 75 tonight. Dallas against Buffalo in a Dallas rout a couple of years back. The old mark, 69. And Pittsburgh, Dallas, that was their 35-31 game.
Of course, if it was going to be 78 points, I would have preferred 38-37.
You would have had the teacher say, "See me." That adds up to 75.
I thought that's what it was.
That's right. That is what it is. You're right.
Oh, no.
Sorry about that.
You go see the teacher,
you're right.
Al.
You're right at this point.
You go put on the dunce cap and stand in the corner.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Ed DeBartolo, he's going to put on a cap, and it's not going to be a dunce cap.
They're going to take a victory lap here on the way to the post-game ceremonies, which you'll be checking out here on ABC.
Yeah, we will still have the official coronation and the presentation of the Lombardi Trophy to the 49ers for the 5th time. They move to the head of the class. Al and I go see the teacher, but the 49ers definitely go to the head of the class.
And a class by themselves, and of course, when you talk about a class by themselves, well, there he is. 2:14 remaining. We caught a glimpse of Mike Shanahan. That's another story, as we detailed in the first half. Can they keep Mike, or will he become the head coach at Denver or Philadelphia, Rams? The other guy we haven't mentioned tonight yet, Ray Rhodes, the defensive coordinator of the 49ers, is a man being looked at by the Rams as well, and there he is.
Yep.
We posed that question to George Seifert, and he said, well, it's happened in the past, and he, of course, referred to the fact Dennis Green went off to Minnesota, and Ray Rhodes was gone, as a matter of fact, come back, and he was gone for a year and came back to take over the full job as defensive coordinator.
It's the price you pay for being a successful program. The San Francisco 49ers routinely pay that price, as do the Dallas Cowboys, as their coordinators move on to become head coaches elsewhere. And it is one of the big problems of being so successful.
Dexter Carter. Tackle of the 48 by Junior Seau.
Class, class, class.
2-minute warning. 49ers 120 seconds away from championship number 5.
I'd like to be him for just one day.
To go, the 49ers on top 49-26. And most people figured the Niners would win by close to 3 touchdowns, and they have exceeded that.
How about some kudos while we're tossing them out to our crew tonight? Outstanding work, ladies and gentlemen. This is a huge production. Unless you've ever seen one up close and see the miles of cable and the number of people that work on this thing, it's mind-boggling.
Bill Musgrave comes into the game on 3rd and 24 as George Seifert's going to let every guy on the roster have a chance to say he played in a Super Bowl. Tomorrow on Good Morning America, Super Bowl heroes, key players from tonight's game on Good Morning America. And a look at the winners from the Battle of the Super Bowl commercials on Good Morning America tomorrow. I guess when you win a Super Bowl, it's easy to get up at that hour and join Charlie and Joan and the gang.
I'm not sure you have to get up.
You go straight over there. You're right.
You do it on the way home.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I don't think getting up's a problem.
Yep.
You're just looking for a place to bed down about that time.
Well, George Seifert, and it's funny, he made a curious statement, I thought, after the NFC Championship game. He said, "This is the highlight of my coaching career." I say curious because here's a guy who already won a Super Bowl title, and we talked to him about it the other day, and he said, "Hey, look, you know, after the last couple of years and going back to '90 when they felt they should have been in the Super Bowl as well, the pressure had mounted to such a degree that this one against Dallas, the NFC Championship, meant more to him than the Super Bowl title in his rookie season as a coach."
The winningest coach percentage-wise in the history of this game. And I hope he gets his due. Well, there's a good-looking ball.
Wilmsmeyer, and that's fair caught at the 7-yard line by Darian Gordon.
Bobby Ross, who's been successful wherever he's coached, there'll be another day. He is now finishing his 3rd season with the Chargers. Had a remarkable 11-5 in his first year, and last year lost a lot of players, slipped to 8-8. This year, nobody gave them a shot to go anywhere. They lost their leading receiver, their leading rusher, revamped their entire defense behind this man, Junior Seau, and yet they pulled together another 11-5 season.
He'll take it and build on it.
A pretty good organization. One of the question marks will be defensive coordinator Bill Arnsparger. Will he choose to continue? It's his option, according to Bobby Ross.
49ers leading by 23 as Humphreys throws. The catch is made. And to the 21-yard line goes Mark Say. And that's a first down with 1:28 ticking down.
As Bill Arnsparger, the defensive architect for 5 different Super Bowls, 2 of them the great Super Bowl for Miami in '72 and '73, went on to be head coach of the Giants, '74, '75, fired there in '76. Was an athletic director at LSU when he decided he wanted to get back into coaching 2 years ago.
Humphreys, and the catch is made by Tony Martin. Up at the, or is he? No, he's out of bounds. Was Martin. Incomplete, 2nd down.
The thing that will haunt San Diego as they make the trip back to the West Coast are the mistakes that they made early. The first 2 touchdowns to the San Francisco 49ers, where they are beaten down the middle of the field when they're in position to make the plays and don't, will, I think, for a long time make Bobby Ross and everybody involved with the Chargers organization wonder, what could we have done if we would not have just given them a couple cheapies at the beginning of the ball game. And then receivers for the Chargers early in the ball game weren't hanging on to the football. They just made it too easy for San Francisco too early in the ball game.
Buffon made that last catch, and a timeout is taken with 52 seconds remaining in the game. And that was the last thing that San Diego could afford to have happen. To fall behind early in the game, when we touched on it at the top, they're a team that has come from behind, but this is a team facing them that you don't want to fall behind against. And we talked about how important it was for that man Humphreys to be hot at the top of the game and all of the rest, and you just can't fall behind, as Dallas found out, of course, 2 weeks ago as well.
Yeah, good point. I think all in all, Stan Humphreys has held together awfully well tonight. I think he's thrown the ball well. I think he has, Frank, in my opinion, I think Stan Humphries played a pretty good, doggone good football.
He's had a great season. Another great season when they brought him here in '92. Bobby Method brought him here. He threw for over 3,300 yards. He's got a great one-loss record. 2 timeouts left for San Diego as Humphries looks over the middle, and that's incomplete at the 46-yard line, intended for Mark Say. Gary Plummer, the former San Diego Charger, kind of lost in San Diego in the shadow of the great Junior Seau while he played there, but he was a fine linebacker, and the 49ers certainly wanted him. And there's Gary Kubiak. He is the man who communicates to Steve Young, getting the plays from Mike Shanahan, and I'm quite sure discussing the plays with Shanahan.
And he'll collect the championship ring.
2nd down and 10 at the 39-yard line. And Humphries guns one. It's caught at the 43. And Tony Martin makes the catch there. And I think a few people around this great land of ours have moved to the forward portion of the couch at the moment. You better believe it. 27 seconds and the clock ticking down at the 44-yard line. Humphries throws. Here's Ronnie Harmon making the catch, and he is stopped at the 35-yard line. And a timeout is taken by the San Diego Chargers.
Mike Shanahan has made his way down from the booth, and he's hugging Steve Young. And again, as we talked about earlier, will he or won't he be back?
He's such a wonderful extension of this offense. You can get the feel, and as it flows down to Gary Kubiak and out onto the field into Steve Young's helmet. And of course, Steve Young given a lot of options to change at the line of scrimmage, but Shanahan, as he spoke to us, said, I'm so comfortable with everything here. And that may play into the factor as to whether or not he will decide to leave the 49ers.
Burton Hanks doing a little Freddie Mercury up there.
Dion. Well, it's 2nd down and 1 at the 35-yard line. To the strains of We Will Rock You. The ball is snapped to Humphries. Humphries going deep and incomplete, intended for Martin.